Welcome back to the race. I'm David Gregory. Time for the back half. Today's defeat of the bailout bill was notable not only for its bipartisan opposition, but also for its bipartisan support. One of the Republican congressmen who voted for the bill was Chris Shays of Connecticut, and he joins me now from Capitol Hill. Congressman, what happened today?
You had people who disagreed with the legislation. I supported it. I didn't want to play Russian roulette, and while I don't think it's going to be 1929, in this environment, we need to get liquidity in the marketplace. I felt the bill was a compromise. I felt that taxpayers, in fact, would be buying bad debt, but at a discount, in some cases bargain basement prices. I felt we would make money that way, and I thought also with the equity interest. I thought also that you'd have an insurance program as well as a buyout, and you'd have potentially loans as well. I thought we gave them the tools they needed, so I thought the bill made sense. I would have liked to focus on the capital markets and the market-to-market issue. I do think we should have had coverage above $100,000 for folks who have money deposited in banks. And I do have a reservation about the $700 billion not being enough.
Well, here's what conservatives are arguing and voiced by the idea of the conservative legacy on the opinion page of the Wall Street Journal today. Quote, many frustrated conservatives see Mr. Bush's rescue plan on top of his decision to invade Iraq as cementing his legacy as a big government conservative. Some lawmakers accuse the Bush administration of, quote, socialism. Meanwhile, conservative legal scholars question whether the rescue plan is constitutional and predict court battles in the years to come. My question is, there's talk about reconvening in a couple of days. What makes you think there's going to be a deal then?
Oh, I think that two things are happening. One is we may submit the same bill, and you may find 15 or 16 members who've changed their minds as they get a different response from their constituents. Even though I supported the bill, my calls were 30-1 against. Some, they were 500-1 against. So that could be a factor. Also, you could see someone like an institution like the SEC dealing with a mark-to-market issue, doing something administratively that we all want them to do that then changes the dynamic of the legislation.
Congressman, Senator John McCain suspended his campaign to meet particularly with House Republicans who didn't like this bill. And it was said by his advisors that he played a leadership role here in bringing people around and ultimately coming up with a solution. And then this result today. Yeah. Did he help or did he hurt?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is last night I would have said it was going to pass, and this morning when I spoke to some of my colleagues, they were pretty determined to have it go down. And, they had reasons. And they may, in the end, make it a better bill. So time will tell. But in the meantime, we're seeing some real disruption in the marketplace. I would suggest to folks, if they keep selling their stocks on Thursday, they may want to buy them back.
All right, Congressman Christopher Shays from Connecticut, thanks very much for taking the time tonight. I want to turn back to our panel tonight, joined now by John Harwood, CNBC Chief Washington Correspondent, political writer for the New York Times, Pat Buchanan, Harold Ford back with us as well. Also joined from Los Angeles by Lawrence O'Donnell, MSNBC political analyst as well. All right, John and Lawrence, let me start with you. John, you first. Is there a real prospect that this is going to pass again in a couple of days, and what will change then?
Well, I think there is a prospect it'll pass. I think members are going to watch the fallout from a nearly 800-point drop in the stock market and try to figure out who's going to get blamed for that. One of the reasons that this package came together on Friday, or began to come together on Friday, was that there was a lot of heat being felt by House Republicans, as well as the McCain campaign, for what had happened so far. That is the failure of the deal so far, and the idea that the stock market might suffer. So there's some pressure here. And I got to tell you one other thing that could turn it around, David. This is very bad news for the John McCain campaign. He has been suffering for the last 2 weeks since this financial crisis flowered. This just keeps this alive, deepens the anxiety. Nearly 800-point drop in the Dow. This is not what the leadership of the McCain campaign wanted to happen.
Absolutely not. Lawrence O'Donnell was in New York actually tonight. You heard from Senator McCain today more offense against Senator Obama, saying that he and his Democratic allies injected partisanship into this so far. And we'll hear from another Republican congressman in just a moment. What I'm hearing is an ideological opposition to this bill, not the idea of an excess of partisanship.
That's what it seems to be, David. And listen, I've seen close votes like this in the House and the Senate before. This is clearly an instance where the bill was put to the floor without knowing whether they had the exact number of votes to get it across. I've seen bills like that go through and win by one vote. By the way, you will never, ever lose by one vote in the House. When people know that you aren't going to pass the bill, you lose a bunch of votes right toward the end there who can safely move away from it. So this is actually much closer than the margin that you saw in the vote today. And there is a political, tactical compromise available down the road to Speaker Pelosi, which she's not going to really like. But it's basically, let's split what we need here. You know, we need another dozen votes. Let's get another 6 Democrats, another 6 Republicans. There's a way to do this again on Thursday, and certainly the market's performance in the meantime will have a lot to do with the momentum for passage on Thursday.
All right, well, Lauren, stick around. Let's check in now with one of the Republican congressmen who voted against the bailout bill today. Joining me now is Republican Congressman from Georgia, Tom Price. Congressman Price, are you shaken by what happened on Wall Street today? Does it make you rethink your decision?
Hey, David, good to be with you. Challenging times that we have right now and much volatility in the market, no doubt about it. What I'm hopeful for is that we'll be able to get back at the table in a bipartisan way and come up with a solution that embraces American fundamental principles and makes it so that we can proudly, all of us in the House of Representatives vote for a bill this week.
All right, so what do you need to vote for it?
I think we need taxpayer protection. We need to make certain that the taxpayers are protected and that we're not bailing out Wall Street.
All right, well, we hear a lot about taxpayer protection. Let's talk specifics here, because there was some of that in the bill, according to some.
Let me give you some specifics. A mandatory insurance model that will allow for Wall Street to bail itself out, not on the backs of the taxpayers. Significant decrease in capital gains tax that will infuse capital into the market. Accounting reforms like mark-to-market reform that you've heard about and net operating loss carryback that make it so that balance sheets for businesses will appear and be, in fact, much better overnight. Those kinds of things are positive principles that could come to the table, and I think in fact that kind of bill would have a majority support on the House of Representatives right this second.
Senator McCain spoke out about this bill. You know it. Here's what he had to say.
When the financial crisis threatened the economic security of all Americans, I laid out principles to protect hardworking Americans, and I believe that inaction was not an option.
Why didn't you follow the standard bearer of the Republican Party? He said inaction was not an option.
Well, as many have said, it's important to get this right, not necessarily just to do it quick. I believe also that inaction is not an option. But inaction isn't confined to a single day. Inaction is confined to a period of time, and make certain that we do the right thing and not just the quick thing.
Has Senator McCain played a leadership role? Has he helped you and others in this process?
I think he has played a leadership role, because what he has done is move the ball forward. When this bill was originally introduced, as some have said, it wouldn't have gotten 4 or 6 Republican votes. I think he assisted in making it so that it was a much better bill. We've got a little bit more to go, and I think that we'll get there.
Are you prepared to vote for something that you don't like 100%?
Absolutely. Politics is about the art of compromise, and we're willing to work with every member of the House of Representatives so long as we're working in an honest and bipartisan way to put together the best bill that we can for the American people.
And do you think a bill ultimately will work, a bailout bill? Will that solve this problem?
I think that the principles that I outlined, that is market reform and infusing capital into the system from a private sector aspect, and accounting reform, accounting reporting reform, will in fact be able to solve this challenge that we have right now, and I think you'd see the markets respond accordingly.
All right, Congressman Price from Georgia, thank you very much for joining us tonight.